tug and trade.
Donate now at ShockYouPlays.com for the kids. Find yourself in the Beachview area of Pittsburgh? Check out the official pizza of this show, Slice on Broadway, sharing an abnormal obsession with pizza we can relate to. Check them out at SliceOnBroadway.com and tell them this show sent you. Want to have your business or podcast featured on the show? Contact us at info@sorgatronmedia.com. Subject line, advertising.
Hungry, but I ain't starving yet. Chain for the pain, cocktail ball set. Never said I was a gangster or thug, but I'm an animal. Beating for the taste of the fly. Sing.
Hey guys, it's the Indy Mayhem Show. I'm Sorgatron at Sorgatron on Twitter, coming at you live from the studio in Pittsburgh, PA, ready to talk about indie wrestling with my buddy here, Eamon. Of course, Eamon, how you doing? Coming at us from San Antonio, Texas, from across the nation. The great commentator for the Inspire Pro Wrestling that's really getting streamed down there. How you doing this week, sir?
Absolutely. I believe we'll be discussing a bit of Inspire Pro and the stuff happening this weekend a little later in the show.
Awesome.
But I'm pumped to talk about indie wrestling tonight.
We got a ton of stuff, and of course myself here locally doing production for groups like the International Wrestling Cartel, Renegade Wrestling Alliance, doing the recent Finding Zach Gowen, doing editing and shooting on that with Joe Dombrowski, all kinds of wrestling projects up in this area. One of which is not Extreme Rising, by the way. But anyways. And this is your Indie Mayhem Show. I just wanted to give a shout out. Thanks a lot to Basic Sickness for that intro. Go check out his stuff at basicsickness.com. And of course, you can find out about this and other shows that we're doing here at WrestlingMayhemShow.com. Or you can drop us an email, of course, at goodtimes@WrestlingMayhemShow.com. Or drop to the phone line. Leave us a voicemail, 412-206-WMS0. And you can find this show on iTunes, on Stitcher, on Spreaker, on YouTube, on iHeartRadio of all places in audio and video forms. And you can follow us at Mayhem Show. Look for Wrestling Mayhem Show on Facebook, Google+, and the Great Wrestling Mayhem Show Facebook group, where we have a lot of discussion going on as well. And you can join us here live if you want to jump in the chat room at 11 p.m. Eastern Time at live.sorgatronmedia.com, 10 p.m. Central Time. I'm minding you, friends of Eamon over there.
Those Central Time people need a bit of love.
That's right. We just forget it for everybody else when we do these shows. So we got another guest from your neck of the woods there, Eamon. So who are we talking to this week?
Well, as much as he's competed a lot in my neck of the woods, most notably, though, competing in the Midwest in the St. Louis area, and he is the third of, I guess, the four possible members that we can have on the show for the submission squad, so we're hopefully almost filling that quota. But I'm very excited to have him on. He is a professional wrestler and also a booker for St. Louis Anarchy, Pierre Abernathy. Pierre, how are you this evening?
Doing well. How are you guys?
Doing great. Now, last show we actually had Evangelistico on, so I believe we'll hopefully touch on a bit of stuff that he talked about also with the stuff that you've been doing as well. So, but the first thing that we like to bring up on the show, and since a lot of times in the case of indie wrestling, when people get into it, it's because obviously they loved watching it and following it. What was your first ever professional wrestling memory?
The first thing I can remember is watching WrestleMania 6 on pay-per-view. That's the first wrestling I remember watching as it happened. So that's the first memory I had. And then, of course, the Hogan Warrior match. I was a big Hulk Hogan fan. And that's my first memory of live pro wrestling that I was watching on TV as it happened. And then from there, I just would rent a whole bunch of videotapes and then started attending WWF events that would happen in St. Louis. And I just was pretty much hooked on it from then on out.
Awesome. And I'm assuming from the past events from WrestleMania weekend, that match sort of has a bit more of an effect on you now.
Yeah, it was pretty surreal how all of that went down with the Ultimate Warrior passing away. Like, it's just the things don't typically happen that way, where a guy's on TV one day, then the next day he is dead. So it was kind of really surreal.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a bit more about how you actually got into it, how you started in professional wrestling. I'm always interested, whatever guest we have on, is how they actually got into it and got involved. What would you say was the actual moment where you got sort of your first start, I guess, and found out about how to become a wrestler?
Well, I was actually hanging out with Gary at my place, and a friend of ours worked at a bar and grill, and he had got a flyer from somebody who was there, and it was a place that was starting a company, and they were looking for trainees. So we decided to go do that. Like, we had a meeting with them and all this, and the guy who was starting this company is actually Jordan Lacey, who wrestles for St. Louis Anarchy right now. But this guy really, Lacey at the time, didn't really have any skills to train somebody. He was very new to wrestling as well, but he had gotten some money and got a ring, so he figured he should start his own company. So that's kind of like our initial training was from there, which was very bad. And I think we had 2 months of training before we were on our first show, which we had no business even being on. But, you know, it happened. And through that process, we met a guy named Sam Richardson, who wrestles under the name Adam Raw, and Tom Ike, who is a retired Indy wrestler. And they actually did what would be considered our real training. Now, neither one of them really had a lot of experience on the Indies as far as wrestling goes, but Adam Raw is a national Taekwondo champion, and right now he's one of the top personal trainers in the St. Louis area. So as far as like conditioning and stuff like that, he was really good. And they did some training with a company called Gateway Championship Wrestling, so they knew the basics, and that they kind of taught us that stuff. And then from there, we did a 12-hour training seminar with Matt Seidel and Delirious, and that's really where we learned a lot of things in that 12-hour day. After that, we just started doing seminars wherever we could find them, and we learned a lot that way.
Awesome. And obviously working through Gateway, but then also I know the where you and a lot of the submission squad members sort of became more prominent was in the LWA. I believe in that time, because we talked to Evan last show, referring to you throughout the episode as the Prodigy, as opposed to your normal name Pierre Abernathy. So did you went through a couple, I guess, character developments as to how you were until you became Pierre Abernathy, I guess, in a sense. How did that sort of come about?
Well, I mean, not really. I mean, he kind of misremembers. The Prodigy gimmick only happened on our first ever show. First, it was an XWA show, and they only had the one show. The first LWA show, I was the European scumbag, Pierre Abernathy. So I was always that gimmick from the time the LWA started till right now. Evan misremembers a lot of things, I guess.
But yeah, so you went, obviously, with the LWA, you worked a lot with guys like Evan and Gary, and like people like Davey Vega as well, eventually forming the submission squad. And the group where I know you more prominently, where I saw you for the first time, was Anarchy Championship Wrestling down here in Texas. How was sort of, and I talked to Gary and Evan about this, but sort of coming about to what sort of made you guys decide, hey, we should work for a company, that's 14 hours away?
Well, it's just what we were always told, is that if you wanted to get your name out there, you had to get in the car and travel. And guys who we saw from this area that became successful, we seen that they got in their car and traveled. So, I mean, that's just what we did. So we would send resumes out all over the place, and we would travel if they would book us. So we bugged Darren for a long time to book us, and we would never hear nothing back. And then we finally did, and he booked us, and myself and Gary and my girlfriend and another guy, a friend of ours named Ryan, we made the trip down, and I really think Darren didn't expect us to show up, but we did. And then from then on is how we wrestled there. And that's just really how we branched out everywhere, just sending out resumes and stuff like that.
Definitely, and I know because I've seen a lot of people from the Texas area also now move up to St. Louis to sort of get, like you said, sort of more exposure and get their name out there. In the sense of, obviously, when you leave Texas, it's a bit easier to travel and stuff like that. So do you feel like that sort of benefited you guys a lot? The fact that you were definitely getting those car rides in and traveling much more than just wrestling in St. Louis.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like you never get better wrestling the same people over and over again, and wrestling in the same area is just not going to work. I mean, you need to get out there and experience different things and wrestle people who maybe know more than you or learn different things than you did. And I don't feel like you can do that if you just wrestle in one area all the time. And if people want to do that, more power to them. But I don't feel like you really accomplish anything by doing that.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's always hard for me to comprehend just the fact that you guys are, to make those 14-hour drives basically from St. Louis to Texas and then back. And I've talked with Evan and Gary about it, and the idea of like the travel and the car rides, how it sort of builds a sense of camaraderie with the people that you travel with. But also, I always wonder how big of a role does that play in the sense of, like, obviously wrestling is a contact sport and injuries are involved and stuff like that. How does that really, I think, come into play when you have basically 28-hour trips back and forth?
It definitely sucks. Like it's funny. Like, people don't think about that part, I guess, as much, because like when it's a few years ago, it was myself, Gary, and Evan against Masada, Scott Summers, and ACH. It was like a 40-minute street fight, and it was pretty violent, and it was pretty brutal. And we got right back in the car and traveled 14 hours home right after that. Like, we don't stay in town until the next day and get, sleep. Like, we go straight home because people have lives at home that they need to get back to.
Right.
So that's the part that is the worst. Like, if you're beat up or whatever, you don't get that, like, rest period from when the show ends to the next morning. Like, we travel straight through, and on a typical Texas trip, if the show ends at 11:30, we will get home about 2 p.m. that next day. Is how it typically works out.
But yeah, definitely, it definitely takes a toll, I would say, in a sense, and it's amazing and also kind of awe-inspiring in a sense that you guys make those trips out. Talking about sort of now your wrestling style, I think people that have seen Pierre Abernathy before, I think a lot of people, and your stuff in St. Louis, ACW, also, obviously, we're going to talk later about Chikara. I think they kind of would think immediately that you're a bit of a comedy wrestler, but I think if people look more closely, I've noticed in the past that you have a really good, like, technical wrestling ability. I think the first match I ever saw you wrestle was against ACH in a singles match, and I was kind of surprised almost how fluid and how actually well worked the match was. Do you sort of, I guess the best way to put it is, do you like to sort of almost catch people off guard in a sense with the fact that, hey, I can actually wrestle?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think that people forget that because I've done comedy stuff at least in ACW for so long. But yeah, it's just really whatever the situation calls for. When I first went into ACW, all the way up until a few years ago, we were in a specific role where I had to be more serious and wrestle more. And then at some point, the gears turn and I could do this comedy. And I'm talking, the comedy is a lot easier on your body, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So that was great. But yeah, sometimes it is nice to be able to show people, like, I can actually wrestle. That's why I always tell people that I really feel my best body of work was actually done for Metro Pro Wrestling, their TV show in Kansas. Because with that show, we were doing some comedy and we were doing a lot of serious stuff, and it was a good mixture of both. So I really feel like that's my best body of work. Yeah,
definitely. I would encourage anyone to check out the stuff with you and Evan as part of the commission. It was really, really fun stuff. Let's get to. I talked to Evan about this last week. Your part now in Chikara. Obviously, the big news from National Pro Wrestling Day was the fact that you guys deciding to stand behind Chikara instead of trying to, I guess, destroy them from within. And I've really been interested in this story and invested through it. A lot of it due to those Submission Impossible videos that you guys put out. How is it like sort of becoming those characters now and getting involved in that storyline? Obviously, with your past with Chikara back in King of Trios 2009.
It's been a lot of fun. Like, I think that, a lot of fans did a complete, turn on us. Like, obviously, a lot of the diehard Chikara fans didn't care for us much after 2009, and we slowly won over some of them from that point on. But there were still a lot who really didn't like us. So I think these Submission Impossible videos really help turn people in our favor, which is pretty cool. Like, the characters are a bit different than what we were doing other places, but I mean, I like stuff like that. I think that it shows you being versatile as a performer if you can do many different things. Like, for instance, Gary J in St. Louis Anarchy is our most vicious heel. Same way down in ACW, he's a pretty vicious guy. But for the Chikara angle, he's in an owl suit and acting goofy. Like, it shows different layers as a performer, which I think is important. But we've had a lot of fun doing it, and it all kind of comes full circle off of the match in 2009 that a lot of their diehard fans would say was so bad they were talking about it years later, which ultimately is what turned into us getting this opportunity. So it's pretty cool.
And I talked with Evan sort of the idea that almost in the sense of the reviews that match had gotten almost got you guys more opportunities because people sort of looked at you and they're like, oh, these guys are getting some buzz. Maybe we can, sort of do something with them. I know Evan cited AIW as one of the companies that really sort of picked you guys up and did a lot of stuff with you. Do you feel the same way as far as that sort of benefit from that match?
Oh yeah, it definitely did, because we would either get booked for one or two reasons. Either people would watch the match and see, like, it wasn't really that bad. Or they would book us and not even see the match and just book us and go, I wonder if these guys are really that bad, like as bad as what people said after that match. I mean, either way, and I don't care why people booked us, the end result is we were making money off of it, so it worked out great for us. So no matter what, we were getting these opportunities. AIW picked us up and really did a lot for us from that. Like, we did a Jack of all trios for them. That was our first weekend with them. And the winner of that got a spot in the 2010, I think it was, Chikara King of Trios. And people were really not wanting us to win that tournament, and we didn't. And it was just good, and it was a nice start with AIW.
Awesome, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely good to, even sort of that kind of press can, give you guys some opportunities. I wanted to talk to you about definitely promoting St. Louis Anarchy. Obviously, you're a professional wrestler, but for those that don't know, you're also booking St. Louis Anarchy. Was it like sort of taking that role, and when did you start? How did that role sort of come about, and how have you felt St. Louis Anarchy has grown so far?
I actually took over when it was still RWA, and that more or less just happened because nobody else wanted to. The people that were management there, I guess, was burnt out at the time, and they were going to just fold the whole company. And we actually had a trainee named Dorian, who was Gary's father, who was training down there at the time, and we didn't want to close. I felt it was unfair to him because he had invested so much time in the training. It was right about to have his first match when they just one day, when we showed up to the training school, I guess you could say, decided to say the company was over. Well, myself and Sam Lacey had decided, well, no, we'll go ahead and take over. And I started booking LWA then. So that's kind of how I got into it, was just because no one else wanted to. So from then, I booked LWA. I mean, I know everybody likes to ask why we became St. Louis Anarchy, so just to answer that real quick, it's more or less we felt that LWA had run its course. And LWA wasn't really, it was always someone else's vision that I was booking. It wasn't ever really my vision because it was started by other people. So that's when, in our attendance numbers, it dipped really bad too. And I just felt like overall people were burnt out on that product for whatever reason. Not that the product was ever bad, just I felt people didn't really care. And that's because our business model was pretty much the same as every other business model in St. Louis. We all use the same guys. You could see every guy that was on our show on the other 4 or 5 shows that were running in the area at the time. So when we partnered up, I guess, with ACW, we changed our business model. And we took like 2 months off, and when we came back with St. Louis Anarchy, our numbers skyrocketed. We've been building off of that ever since.
Awesome. And we've had a couple people that have assumed booking roles in various companies on the show. And we asked sort of a similar question, but what are sort of the, I guess, biggest benefits that come with booking, and then also, I guess, some of the difficulties that come with it?
I think the biggest benefit, obviously, is you get to put forth what your vision of what pro wrestling should be to the masses or to your audience. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the number one positive. It's what you think pro wrestling should be, whether it's right or wrong or whatever. It's your vision, and it's what you're sharing with the people. I think that would be the number one benefit. The biggest setback, I guess, it just depends on who you are. Like for me, booking this show, it's still being a traveling wrestler. It definitely has its non-benefits, because anywhere you go, people are going to say, oh, I really want to come work for St. Louis Anarchy. I'd really like to come to St. Louis. And sometimes if you don't book them, because you can't book everybody, then all of a sudden they don't like you no more. Or what you get even more often is when you try to go work somewhere, it's all, well, brother, yeah, I'll book you guys, and maybe you can book some of my guys for St. Louis Anarchy, which doesn't always work. So then all of a sudden you're not getting as much work because you can't book everybody. So I guess that would be the number one setback to it.
And also in a set, the question that we pose to sort of all the people that we have on our show as far as indie wrestling goes, is that what is the best thing about independent wrestling in general right now, and what is the worst thing in turn?
I guess the best thing would be just that there's a lot of good guys out there. I mean, there's a very deep talent pool, and what makes independent wrestling different than the WWE is that you're right there in the action. Like you're right there, front row seat. You're legitimately right there in front of the actor. There's not a bad seat in an indie show. You can usually at an indie show, the wrestlers are much more personal to the fans. Like the fans can talk to a lot more of them and make a connection with the wrestler more. I think those are the best things about indie wrestling. The worst thing, obviously, is the stuff that kills indie wrestling, which is the numerous horrible promotions out there. Because I really do believe that if a casual fan, not a wrestling fan, but the casual fan, which is, in my opinion, what you need to try to get into your show if you want to be successful, if they go see one horrible indie wrestling show, they will never come back to one again. Mm-hmm. Because they'll always associate indie wrestling with what they went and saw. And when you lose those people, it's almost impossible to ever get them back. And the really bad places, they are, in a sense, killing the indie wrestling business, because any show is going to draw some people. And if any of those people are casual fans and they see that stuff, then the ball game's over, no matter how good your show may be.
Right. Yeah, I can definitely see that. I've seen through people that, aren't as keen, I guess, on independent wrestling, and it is most likely because they attended a show that I guess wasn't of a certain level. So it's almost it like you mentioned, like I think it reflects the entire scene, not just one specific company.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like they'll always associate indie wrestling with what they saw on that show.
Definitely. Well, speaking of some good indie wrestling, some really great indie wrestling, I know St. Louis Anarchy, you've got a event coming up in May for entitled #Stacked, and you guys bust out some really amazing cards. But this is one of the cards that I'm truly jealous that I'm not going to be there to see, because top to bottom, I think it's definitely an immensely strong card. Probably one of the top indie cards I've seen out of all independent wrestling right now. How does it feel? How does it feel, sort of being able to put this card together?
Oh, it's really cool. Like, I mean, it's neat to be able to give fans in St. Louis opportunities to come see matches that they wouldn't get to see otherwise in person. Like, a lot of these athletes that we use, the only way to see them on the indie scene is to buy a Pro Wrestling Guerrilla DVD or an AIW DVD, something like that, is if you live in St. Louis. But we're able to provide fans with these kind of cards. So, I mean, that's great. Like, I if nothing else, we do this so we can provide good pro wrestling in the city of St. Louis. Or, well, we're in Alton, Illinois, but close enough to the city of St. Louis. And I feel like with this card, it's going to do that.
Definitely. And you got a lot of big matches on there. Gary J defending his St. Louis Anarchy championship against Takaaki Watanabe from New Japan. I think that's going to be really killer. Chris Hero and Davey Vega, which, I mean, that match alone, if that doesn't bring people in, I don't know what will, because those guys, I think, are going to tear the house down. And ACH against Alex Shelley for the first time, and even a lot of like the undercard stuff, which I hate calling it undercard because all those matches, I think, look like they have the potential to really be show stealers. So I definitely think it lives by the name of Stacked.
Yeah, I think a match that that is probably going to steal that show will be Jonathan Gresham and Kyle O'Reilly. In my opinion, Kyle O'Reilly is maybe the best independent pro wrestler in the United States right now.
Definitely. I've come to appreciate his work definitely more. A lot of his Ring of Honor stuff, I think, has really been super spectacular. Yeah, definitely him and Jonathan Gresham. I know Jojo Bravo and Danny Cannon. I know Danny Cannon's breaking out a lot and has been doing some great stuff. And you also have a Lethal Lottery, which should be very fun. Definitely an interesting type of event. So that's Stacked in the month of May. It's still about a month away, but if more people want to, I guess, go to that event or find out about that event, where can they find more information about St. Louis Anarchy?
You can go to our Facebook at SLA Wrestling, follow us on Twitter at STL Anarchy, or you can go to our website, which is SLAWrestling.com.
Very cool. And I encourage also people, I know you guys have your Gateway to Anarchy event from this past, I believe, month or so out now on Smart Mark Video. So I encourage people to check that out because
they're both on smartmarkvideoondemand.com.
Yeah, definitely. Because the cards for that, I think, look just as stacked as these ones. So definitely go support St. Louis Anarchy, as many would say the best unkept secret of the Midwest. So, well, Pierre, thank you very much for joining us. It was great getting to talk to you about the pro wrestling scene. We'd love to have you on again. But if people want to follow you personally, where can they find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Pierre Abernathy or on Facebook, which is also facebook.com, Pierre Abernathy.
Very awesome. Okay. So yeah, I guess we're going to talk a bit more about indie wrestling. We're going to let Pierre go for a bit, but we got a couple things to talk about this weekend, right, Sorg?
That's right, from this past weekend, right? And I want to introduce, we're bringing on our good buddy Wheels is joining us right now. Erin West, of course, he does sound with Renegade Wrestling Alliance and other places. He's been around. You've been around, sir. And he's muted. Wait,
Hey,
I brought up the wrong one. How about this is him?
Is that better?
There you are. There you are. My
Hey.
post-it notes got swapped. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
And I think we've
Yeah,
had.
like I said, I'm just a very busy kind of person.
He is.
I'm in demand, obviously. I'm doing such a good job.
He gets around. He gets around. But no, yeah, I think we've had you on before talking RWA events, pre and post, perhaps. But no,
Yes.
but especially you guys had a really big one this past weekend with Salute to the Troops. He was down there at California University, and first event of its type for you, because I mean, RWA typically comes from a very small gymnasium in West
Yes.
Newton, PA, which is a small town. You guys are averaging at least 200 fans,
Yeah,
and
200, 250, depending on weather, sickness, whatever
mhm.
happens.
and
Yeah, so
and the 250 is becoming a venue problem from the sounds of it.
yes, yes. I guess from what I was talking to Derek today, the gym can hold with fire code 300 with
Yeah,
standing room only.
yeah. Which that gets crunched because you guys have the ring in there and everything.
Right.
So with this, you got, I had the opportunity to help you guys with the press conference, film some stuff for that, and help with the promotion a little bit. So this was booked in the California University Convocation Center, which, by the way, holds about 6,000 people. Little bit
Yes.
of an
Yes, it does.
update, but it was kind of a joint effort. It sounds like between you guys, where and we talked about this previously with Dr. Feelbad last week, no, 2 weeks ago on the show. I mean, this was one of those things that was a joint thing. You guys raised a lot of money for the 9/11 fund for and actually had an oath ceremony. And
Yes.
drew, it sounds like, between paid and free military tickets, about 400 people, which,
Well, paid, I found out today, was actual to 400.
okay,
The military was around 20 to 30. So we
okay,
had about 430 in that convocation center, which is in a success in the convocation and the Army's
hmm
eyes and our eyes, because that's not bad for a Easter weekend.
Oh, so for an Easter weekend indie wrestling show, that's actually pretty spectacular.
yeah, entirely. Again, it was interesting because I know, like, a lot of people are like, well, it's not, didn't fill the arena. I was like, well, I don't think anybody in anybody's dreams imagined 6,000 people showing up for an indie show in general. I mean,
Yeah,
I think there's WWE house shows that don't get 6,000 people sometimes, and TNA definitely doesn't see those numbers.
Yeah, it's,
I
yeah.
was going to say, I've been to Sorg, the Ross Straver Ice Garden
Oh
up
yeah.
this way, and that has like what 1,000 seats or more, or something like that, and
hmm
that place doesn't even get filled.
No, no. I mean, our ROH down there doesn't get. I don't know. They probably top out about 500 whenever we've been down there. Of course,
Yeah, and that's
a lot more when they were downtown. But I mean, I think that's kind of the max of what you're going to get in an area like that.
yeah. So I mean, like Eamon said, that's spectacular for an Easter weekend and in a college town.
hmm
Hmm.
And it sounds like, because a percentage of the tickets went through it, all of the sponsor money went to it. It was a really good deal
Right.
for that.
And I found out the sponsor money went up to, as of a few hours ago, because he's still crunching numbers, it is up to $2,800.
hmm
So
Awesome.
So it was a pretty cool event. I as a, I don't know where to go with this. There's a lot happened the
How do
last
you
couple of
transition
days.
to this?
There's a lot of things that happened the last couple of days with this. No, generally though, I think it was a really good event. I feel like some of the matches maybe didn't live up to expectations.
yeah,
I think Taylor and Mitchell definitely did. I was super happy with the women's match that happened there.
yeah, I suppose
Um, I felt
they're
like, and I don't know if it's the size of the venue or what was going on, but it felt like I was really worried. The crowd really was into most everything all at night, but it just
yeah,
felt like some things kind of fell flat in the
yeah,
ring,
yeah,
and especially coming back from intermission, the women's match, which was the first, you guys are, I believe, the only women's title in the area that I'm aware of. I know
I agree with you. I think we are, because I haven't heard of any other women's title. Well, I don't know if the Vixens title counts from VOW.
I would count that, but I didn't know that was a thing. But they're not monthly, so I think it's more significant that you guys do.
Right.
But still, and I consider you guys more Pittsburgh area than them, since they're like generally an hour away, and you guys are a little closer with West Newton. I mean, you're right down the road from the other Pittsburgh guys, practically.
Exactly.
Like both other Pittsburgh guys in your neck of the woods.
Right.
So I think that was really good for you guys taking a chance on women's wrestling, and like I said, I think it was one of the better coming off matches of the show.
Yeah, that's what we planned. It was like, okay, we got to set things just right. So when you're coming off a 20-minute intermission, you want to get that crowd right back into the action. And I think that Jessie Bell and Serafini did very well with getting that crowd right back into it.
Yeah, and not every wrestling show is perfect. I understand some people got injured, some other weird things happened during the show, but still the show like met its goal, and I think it ended up very, very nicely with that the headliner with Chris Taylor and Ryan Mitchell. Really nice effect that were they Army or National Guard guys? I didn't catch.
Some were Army, some were National Guard.
So it was a mix. But they had them out as special match enforcers, which was a nice mix. Because we've seen stuff before. Like I think like last time I was at Cal U for an IWC show, I think they might have brought out the hockey team that was working with promoting the show as
the football team. Because I kind of remember. I kind of remember visiting down there to say hi to a few of the guys and stuff, and I remember it being the football team.
Okay.
And they sat basically like in the bleacher seating, and sat close to the ring. So
maybe I'm thinking, you know what? I was probably thinking the other university that they've done a show at. CCAC. I think when they went back to CCAC, it might have been hockey then. But anyways, it definitely came out a lot better with that, and to the point where I saw the sickest chair shot. We mentioned this earlier on Mayhem show. From one of the Army guys.
I was in shock. Like I was impressed with the chair shot the guy took. I was like, wow. I mean, it echoed in that arena. Like everybody was like, did that really just happen?
But it was a fun show, top to bottom. It's always a good thing when you see something like this, and a lot more people exposed to it. I know there was a lot of exposure on television before and after between at least two of the stations up here in Pittsburgh, at least.
From what I heard, it was WTAE, WPXI, and KDKA.
Oh, didn't hear about the KDKA one.
Yes, we'll have to ask our friend in the mainstream media if I am correct on that.
If it came across. I know I did get passed along to him, and he passed along to whoever needed to be. I think it might actually still be in the chat room.
And I do have news that there is going to be another Salute to the Troops this year.
Nice.
So Salute to the Troops 2 is coming in November.
November?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
That seems soon.
They wanted the positive feedback we all got from the Veterans Affairs, the Army, all the military, and the students that were there over the weekend, plus the fans, plus everything involved. They're like, can you bring it back down again this year? We're like, if you want us, we're there.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
So it made us feel really good to hear that, and that they wanted us back that soon. So.
And that's why, I was really astonished. I think we talked last week about, my experience up in Meadville for, what they did there for Superstars. And I both shows this month have been very, charity centric. Them for Meadville High School, you guys for Veterans Affairs. But in both cases, I think, you guys did killer for whoever was involved, and the fact that you guys drew what you did without a Bret Hart, anybody else, basically on the merit of what you guys are doing, plus of course connections. I understand it's not just the guys you had. I think it's also fact that it's wrestling and it's for the troops. Did a lot to it.
Yes.
Plus you guys do. I think it's undeniable you guys have a rabid fan base from RWA. I
Right.
talk about it here on the show that you guys are very old school. We talk about it with Dr. Feelbad. And I think it showed. I mean, all those people came out and then some. And that's really important. I'm very interested to see if a lot of those people tag along and start showing up at the West Newton shows.
Well, I can tell you that one of the people there, which it's kind of personal because it's the fact of I got my sister to come to that show, her first wrestling show ever, and she came to RWA, and she was hooked, and she'll be at our May show, so she's hooked to RWA.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the CalU students that haven't been to an indie show are like, when can we see another show? So
Good.
we threw out that reel, and we brought in some fish. So.
Good. And it is definitely, definitely something challenging. Definitely something different. Nobody else dared to. I think the venue was too big. I wish they had a smaller building. I wish they had a smaller building to put you in, so it doesn't look. Because no matter, you guys are going to do tremendous. You guys are going to raise money and everything. But no matter what, my shots are empty seats.
It's so sad. It's like you can't aim those cameras to miss those big old red seats up there.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I mean, and that's the thing. Every picture looks like they're performing in front of like a bunch of empty seats, and until you see like the people peeking out from the edge. But I mean, luckily on our side, the way it did go up was on the side. You see all the bleachers, and they're filled up. On the lower bowl part of it. So maybe we'll rearrange that a touch next time to make it look at least a little bit better on camera. But I think it was cool. It was a different atmosphere, and you guys really stuck out for it. And I think it was a really fun show. So I can't.
I think it's kind of funny you say that. It's like I think even our commentary crew, because I think when I was listening to what you sent me, the tester, I was hearing, can we do this more often? Because it was me, you, and the commentary sitting together closer, and the system seemed to sound better to me. So, I enjoyed working with that sound system. I think in my eyes, because I'm a perfectionist, working with sound, that I think the music could have been a little bit louder, but I don't know what it sounds like on your end in the headphones.
Well, that's the thing. Because I'm tied in directly to them, so you're not going to get the full-on audio. And I'm trying to adjust on the fly a little bit, and hopefully it comes off. And hopefully it came out well on the video that I sent you.
Yeah. It sounded fine. I mean, I was listening to the national anthem by the singer Samantha, and I was like, still had goosebumps again, just remembering that night. So it turned out pretty well.
Awesome. So, great night. Go check out rwalive.com. DVD is going to be available very soon. Covered by Alex Cars there in the chat. It's going to help us out. He's actually saying booking his flight to the West Newton area now. There's no airport out there, buddy.
It's about time, Alex Cars.
It would be, if he comes out and sees a product, he's only coming from California. So there's that.
Awesome. Might tag back along with you, Alex, so might get a little sun out there in the real California.
Well, to work something out. WrestleMania is out there. I'm really thinking about going out since I have family in the area. I know it's not directly in his backyard, because I think he's down in Long Beach, and I think that's a good while away if I know my geography, which I'm really bad with Texas, as Eamon knows, so we'll see how that is. So there's another bit of indie news I wanted to talk about.
Developed today, actually.
Developed in the last few hours, it feels like.
Pretty much. We mentioned this before, because I know Sorg's mentioned it a couple times. Extreme Rising, which is a company sort of based off of the whole ECW sort of stuff. I believe it was started by Shane Douglas. There was some issues of some sort that caused them to go on hiatus, and it was restarted by another promoter named Steve O'Neill. Apparently, they have canceled all of their upcoming events. Shows that were scheduled for April 25th and 26th, which is this weekend in Philadelphia, and then a May 3rd show that was scheduled for Pittsburgh,
which
that
was
I believe
already a reschedule from February.
Yeah, from a snow date, wasn't it correctly? It was like they were worried about snow.
Well,
or
yeah, they were
something.
worried about weather, and there was no weather. There was no weather.
Yeah.
It was sunny.
But yeah, apparently they've canceled all their events. There's a bit of an outrage from a lot of people. Apparently there's from some people that are inside the company and some people that worked for the company in the past. According the statement that was officially released by the promoter, Steve O'Neill, says all Extreme live events from Philadelphia and Pittsburgh Friday, April 25th, Saturday, April 26th, and May 3rd are all canceled. For full refunds, please contact your credit card company or bank directly or store purchase that.
Whoa. So
that's the part
I have to call my credit card company and put a hold on it?
That's apparently what he's saying.
That's weird.
That's the part that a lot of people are kind of upset about.
Wow.
They aren't directly doing refunds. So yeah, weird stuff happening there. Obviously, we do the Indy Mayhem show to talk about like good stuff that happens in indie wrestling, but also
I think we're here to talk about indie wrestling, the good and the bad. And this, unfortunately, this is right now the bad. Now, myself, I was tentatively apparently booked to at least run camera at the Pittsburgh event. Great Mike Moran, who was probably also really pissed. I think because I saw a thing on Facebook from him. He had all the posters up for the weekend, and he says, "This is what I'm doing. I'm on my way to Philly here in a couple of days, and this is my weekend." And I'm sure he gets a pretty good penny for going out and doing these shows. He has a really good rig. I saw it working Prime Wrestling with him. And he was also supposed to be doing the one here in Pittsburgh, and I'm supposed to be tagged on for that. But some people I think are going to have an even. I saw Eden Rotten had a post bashing them. I know you mentioned Raven was going off about this whole thing. I tagged a couple of tweets from friends of ours actually. Gregory Iron, turn a negative into a positive here in a way. I was booked for Extreme Rising 3 times. I was also canceled 3 times. Support good, reliable indie wrestling. And he tags AAW Pro, I think you're familiar with, HRT Boss, and O'Day Wrestling on Twitter. Joe Dabrowski, we have from the first episode of this podcast. Any promoters with shows April 25th, 26th, or May 3rd interested in an announcer victimized by canceled shows, please tweet for booking info. So everybody's scrambling. I mean, that's for some people, 2 entire weekends have just got ruined.
Yes. Yeah.
Like completely. And not being a person, I mean, I understand, bookings from my production side of things, but that's different than what some of these guys have to go through. I don't know. Yeah,
it's a real sad situation. I just companies in the way they handle things, it's a big deal. There also is a bit of an update. I know there are a lot of other companies out there that are spinning things into a positive, in a sense, to where they're saying if you bought tickets for any of these shows, or I believe, and I know a couple said even if for the rescheduled show, and you go to their events, they're going to give you a discounted price on their show, with you providing the ticket. I know AIW is doing that. I believe there's another company named Big Time Wrestling that's doing that. So that's interesting.
Wheels, is that the one that usually runs Altoona with all the stars? Big Time?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
It is.
Okay.
Because I guess they're doing a Ford City show.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think I saw them up there. Yeah, I feel like I heard they're a New York-based company, but they do a lot of shows. It seems like in the middle of PA as well. I always see posters for them.
Yes,
and I think you guys have some involvement too.
Go to some of those shows myself, and then got to see what it was like. Because, of course, our ring was used a few times for it, so it was nice to see that kind of product and stuff. So it's good to see that they're doing that for the disgruntled fans and stuff like that. So that's a gesture of fate for another company.
And Mac, our friend in the mainstream media, is chiming in on the chat room. There was weather-related delay for a Pittsburgh date, but it's not like Extreme Rising was the only people to cancel or delay something that weekend. How odd that other promotions are almost trying to help prop up fans burned by Extreme Rising. Yes.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. I think it revolves around how situations are handled.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the outrage, I think, coming from Extreme Rising is come from how a situation was handled by a certain promoter. I personally don't agree with their policy, I guess you could put it, for refunds. I think it's a little ridiculous.
Yeah, because I honestly, Eamon, I feel that, okay, we all know working with our banks or credit cards or anything, how hard that's possibly going to be to get your money back from someone and dealing with your bank and your credit card. It's just going to be more frustrating for those people.
Exactly. It just kind of adds to the fire, you know.
Yeah.
A couple other things. Another friend of the show, I work with him. I've worked with him on a few promotions. Justin LaBar, of course, of WrestleZone, Chairshot Reality. Extreme Rising is done. I worked one show. It was my last. A lot of good people screwed there, except one. Kept my silence about it up until now. Wow, and there's a big tirade from Facebook by Blue Meanie. He was saying he was one of their biggest proponents. Promoted them a lot locally. A lot of fans asked him online. Yeah. And it's a shame because I think a lot of people were behind this, and there was a good concept behind it, and there was a lot of good with it. But it just feels like this company, like a lot of indie companies, are just plagued by a lot of issues. And I don't think, have they given any reason why this has happened?
I have not seen a reason to be cited yet.
Yeah.
So I'll be curious to see how it develops going forward.
And
I mean, I don't know. I mean, did you mention about that they killed off their Twitter, they killed off their other social
I didn't
media?
realize that, no. I know the only statement was coming from the promoter's actual Facebook page.
Oh, wow.
I didn't realize they'd actually gotten rid of stuff. But
They're
yeah, they got rid of, I guess, their Facebook, their Twitter, and limited stuff on their actual website. I'm like, okay, that's not good.
Yeah.
And I also wonder, if you go through your credit card company to cancel that, do they take the money back from whoever you charged it to? That seems a little scammy to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that works.
Because I'm looking at this, their extremetix.com was where they were doing tickets through, which, by the way, is down for maintenance right now. Wow. Canceled full refund information. I'm looking at the site right now as well.
But yeah, and I think it falls under what Sorg has mentioned in the past. It's just, those are, when you book wrestlers, they take their time out, they take their weekends out to work for you. And now a bunch of wrestlers don't have dates to work, or they have to scramble to find another date. It's really a shitty situation for them, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you never know. They could have called off their own personal work to go, okay, I'm working this show, and they're screwing themselves with their actual work pay to get their wrestling pay that now they're not going to even see.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, they got to scramble to go to another opening. Maybe somebody will want them in or something like that.
And a lot of these guys booked on these shows, I think, are career wrestlers too. This is their pay. Because some people still make it with that. Some of the bigger guys like Raven, I think like this is what they do, is make appearances. He can command high enough a thing where he can make a living off of it, I would presume. And that just takes away like a third of your month's pay.
Yeah.
Or how many people have something scheduled next weekend for the Pittsburgh event. Around that, I'm swinging through Pittsburgh, so I'll come out to, I don't know, Buffalo, Cleveland, wherever else makes sense from there. And now that just cut this whole leg, and now whatever you did have booked that weekend is less profitable. because you booked it on the understanding, well, I'm in the neighborhood anyways because of Pittsburgh date with Extreme Rising, therefore I'll do this Friday night, Sunday show, whatever the case may be. I mean, that screws with a lot more than that. So
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a little bit I understand about the economics of the wrestlers out there. A little bit.
Yeah.
I know. All I know is that I don't know barely enough to really talk on that. So, anyways, hey, is there anybody actually pulling off a show this weekend, Eamon?
There is.
Oh, isn't that interesting? Somebody can actually do a promotion.
Funny enough, I actually know the people. Funny enough, I actually work for them.
Oh, good.
Inspire Pro's doing a show this weekend. We're doing our.
I've never heard of them.
Never heard of them.
Never heard of them.
Yeah. But no, we're doing our event. We are coming back from about a month and a half, and I can guarantee, and we'll definitely be announcing it soon. But we'll definitely do at least for now 3 straight months of monthly shows.
Nice.
So
Nice.
I know we've been fluctuating a bit with like some of the dates and stuff like that we've been having, taking a couple months off every now and then. But now we're doing full monthly shows now, which is really cool. And the start of that's going to be this Sunday, April 27th, at the Marquesa Hall Theater in Austin, Texas, for No Room to Die. Going to be a really fun show, really great main event. I expect between one man, Mike Dell, defending his Inspire Pro Championship against the undefeated Unholy Gregory James, 5-0 in Inspire. So it's going to be a very intriguing matchup. Also, we got talents. Really excited about this. We have representation in talents from New Japan Pro Wrestling, the now defunct Osaka Pro Wrestling, and Pro Wrestling Noah from Japan. So a lot of really good international stars at this event. Takaaki Watanabe, who's competed for us before, is returning to take on Andy Dalton, which should be a really fun match. We've got Tadasuke from Osaka Pro. He's also been in Chikara, former Chikara Young Lions Cup champion. He's teaming up with Jojo Bravo to take on Matthew Palmer and Lance Hoyt of New Japan fame, WWE TNA fame.
I can't believe that Lance Hoyt is a sought-over indie star right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, that blows my mind. That's like telling me that Test had became a big New Japan star, and now I'm going to go check out a crazy indie show where I can't wait to see what Test is up to.
Well, hey, Luke Gallows is the IWGP Tag Team Champion.
That is true, too. Luke Gallows is freaking awesome, though. He's he's kind of my favorite big guy to see in person now. He was nuts against Dalton Castle back in February here at IWC.
Definitely, yeah. We also have Jake Durden, who's based out of the Missouri area, but he's competed in the Pro Wrestling Noah Dojo and has faced their top stars, and he's coming to take on James Claxton. We've got a Junior Crown Coronation Gauntlet match, which is featuring a lot of young up-and-coming stars in the Texas scene, and even beyond that, we have a couple people coming down from St. Louis. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff on that show. It's definitely one of our braver cards. We're putting a lot out there for this show. It's going to be some really fun stuff. So that's this Sunday, April 27th, at the Marquesa Hall Theater. Tickets are only $12, and you can get them at InspireProWrestling.com. And we'll definitely be announcing some biggest stuff coming up at that show for our May event and our June event, which I think is going to be some really interesting stuff that we're going to pull out. And in sometime soon, I believe in the coming week before the show, before Sunday, our last event, Light the Fuse, will be up on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/InspirePro video, and that'll be really fun. That's one of my favorite cards so far, top to bottom. I think it was really, really solid, and it's something I think people should check out.
Can we talk about your encounters apparently backstage with the Red Scare that are apparently coming up here?
Yeah, I had to interview a dude this Saturday.
A dude, we think?
A dude, I'm assuming, in an undisclosed location, which I wasn't super happy about. Pretty sure the place was haunted. And I had to interview this time-traveling man.
What?
He's apparently from the 40s. Yeah, and the brother of the Great Depression, who's an entity that we've been having for a good while. Some interesting stuff's been happening there.
Nice.
But yeah, he was very intimidating. and I wasn't very comfortable doing that interview. But you can check the interview out on our website, inspiredprowrestling.com. Painstakingly put that together. Almost risked my life
put
for
together.
it. So
Here is your very somber. This is your somber interview face, isn't it?
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah. It's some terrifying stuff. But yeah.
You are either going out for a role in The Crow or Smashing Pumpkins. I can't figure it out.
Jesus.
No, but it's great, man. It's great. I love that they're putting you on camera and seeing where this goes. I didn't watch the actual. I watched what I presume is the teaser to the interview.
Yeah, we filmed my actual finding of the Red Scare.
Okay. Oh, is it just the video is the finding and then the interview's in text? Is that what I'm finding here?
The interview is in the actual text form.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So that was something.
That's good. That's good. Nobody does this. Again, nobody does this.
Nobody does this. But
you know what people do?
People have a dude from the 1940s who just has a red face.
You know what people do? The wrestlers themselves go out and do a promo on their iPhone held sideways the wrong way. You know who I'm talking about. For 5 to 10 minutes. And why the hell do I care?
Yeah.
This has been Wheels, this has been a long time complaint about promos and indie wrestling, But this is interesting. What Plummer's doing over there with IWC Aftershock is interesting. Splicing in footage from what we're doing with interviews he's doing, and being the Jonathan Coachman of the Fed or whatever. That's interesting. Some of these guys. And I know St Louis Anarchy. They do something similar, but it's like it looks like they called them interview reels, and it's interview.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
I feel like AIW, some of the stuff from Cleveland I've seen is like, here's 15 minutes of interview. But unless you are.
I like it better though that it is sort of produced in house and at their shows or at undisclosed locations, as opposed to, sort of like you mentioned, like the iPhone sort of,
Exactly. And there's just, it just feels like, again, our guest earlier was talking about you need to be able to attract the general fan. Mm-hmm. And I feel like a lot of the times that's not considered. There's like, I feel like, with those, crap promotions or whatever, we're looking at least in production and how they, show that aspect.
Almost the mentality of like, well, we're an indie wrestling promotion.
We're doing wrestling, and you got to do a promo.
We're not going to produce stuff.
Here,
like
do it on your phone. Yeah, exactly. Versus, I feel like, I give so much credit to Justin Plummer with that Aftershock show that he does. Yeah. Because he does so much to make it feel like what you kind of expect from WWE. That's my take from it. It is a mix. It feels like in the long run, those This Week in WWE shows that they do, which is really what it needs to be.
And people could say, and even on the WWE level, they could say, are they important or do they really matter or not? But it's not a matter of that. It's a matter of it gives a level of professionalism. It gives something to the overall product.
Exactly. And I think it's very important with them because Wheels, you got your guys. And I think that's why DVDs don't do quite as well for RWA, is everybody that watches RWA comes every month and they know it's there like clockwork, and that's what happens. Yeah. And once in a while, I think people buy DVDs because something special happened or they missed the show, perhaps.
Right. Honestly, I think we need something. Honestly, I love the wrap-ups, but honestly, I do love watching Aftershock a lot because it's like, that's what we need, something like that.
Whereas I think Aftershock really wins because IWC is, if you look at their schedule, it's Elizabeth, White Oak, Meadville all the way up here, Clearfield all the way to freak over here, West Virginia. It doesn't seem like
all their attention.
So the people in Clearfield are not coming down for all these other shows. The people in Clearfield get to see IWC once or twice a year. So maybe they are on the internet. Let's pretend they have internet in Clearfield.
They probably do.
Maybe. I'm sorry. Sorry, Clearfielders out there. Okay, I'm from Mercer County. I understand the internet problem out in the cut, okay?
I was gonna say I've been to your hometown, sorry.
I mean, there's a reason. I mean, I think there's a absolute reason when I'm seeing so many DVDs instead of digital downloads were sold at the Meadville show. These people are from like the Titusvilles and everything. You know what I'm talking about. And I doubt they have like internet to download a 2 gigabyte file that I could sell them for much cheaper. But
you got to get them interested.
But yeah, the aftershock will at least like, oh, Clearfield's coming up. What's been going on? Because I feel like in the booking for IWC, I think there might be a little bit too much storyline when you're doing spot shows, and I worry. I try to look at it. I worry from, person from random town that we happen to be in, that we haven't been in 6 months, and they drop in, and I don't know all this stuff going on with faction. I don't know who this guy is. I'm just here for wrestling, and I'm not sure that's a product for them.
Yeah,
Right.
and it goes back to that idea of trying to appeal to those casual wrestling fans.
Versus, I mean, they do little things. Like every time they're in Clearfield, they do have little strings of things coming back. But the unfortunate part is they'll say, something happened, like Marshall Gambino got into it with so-and-so and say, well, you're going to have a street fight next time we come back to Clearfield. But by the time they come back for Clearfield, maybe the guy's not with it, maybe something else happened, and that just doesn't happen. So that's even that little bit of stringing together doesn't even happen.
Yeah.
Right.
It's complex, and it's something you really got to take account of.
And granted, booking's hard, guys. I'm not.
Booking's
freaking hard, man. I couldn't even fantasy book this crap. But I'm just saying that
you gotta. I think if you give them an avenue in which you can follow the stories and stuff like that, that's what I hope that we're doing with Inspire.
Yeah.
With the interview stuff that we're doing for the website and all the recap stuff.
I mean,
I think this show we're definitely going to be doing a lot more like promos like after the show.
Yeah.
Like sort of like filmed, and I think that'll help a lot.
Definitely something to string them together.
Because I want somebody who's never been to Inspire Pro to, have an understanding of what they're expecting about the stories going into it.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Because it just makes the show better for them.
We spun the event calendar into another discussion. Go us.
Yeah, I love it. I don't even care. There is some more shows coming up this weekend.
Yes.
I'm excited for one that's coming up on Sunday. If you're not in Texas, but you're in Rhode Island, which is I don't blame you. Rhode Island.
Which is all 5 of you.
It's all the way over there. CDW is doing their Infinity event. This is actually a very special event. They're doing it at FET Music, which is where they normally do Beyond Wrestling shows.
Oh.
So not the normal like sort of studio taping ones, but like the big events that they're starting to produce now for DVDs, where it looks like a really amazing environment. Mm-hmm. And CCW is doing their show there. It looks like a really good card. I've really liked CZW lately because I think the stigma it gets, if you watch sort of now modern CZW, it's kind of gone away. There's a lot of really good wrestling on those shows.
I just hit play and it looks like a ripoff of Jason Corey. Just putting that out there. I hear it's been turning around a bit because there was actually I forget where I was talking with somebody. Oh yeah, there was I want to put a shout out to Hardcore Tweets on Twitter. Apparently started the account Sunday and said we're talking about hardcore wrestling, so I was just engaged with them, and we're actually CCW was brought up, and we're actually really good discussion I think for Twitter. So Eamon, I think you should follow him and follow some of the discussions there. It seems like it could be fun if they keep up with it. So I don't know I think there might be a website attached. I don't know if it's a podcast or something, but they're just like, we're here and we're going to talk about hardcore wrestling. I'm like, that's good. What do you think about X? and they were very responsive, at least Sunday night when they started, and it was fun. But exactly. Because you kind of know CZW as the sloppy, flippy indie wrestling that's on Botchamania all the freaking time. But or Blood and Guts, and it sounds like they've kind of honed both sides of that.
Yeah, you've got that mixed with a lot of really good wrestling. Yeah. I really have been happy with the product they've been putting out lately. I know the main event for that show this weekend is Drew Gulak defending his CZW World Championship against Biff Busick. And those guys have wrestled a lot of times for the Wrestling Is promotions. They wrestled at the first ever National Pro Wrestling Day as part of the Wrestling's Respect match. So
Yep.
that's a good contrast. It shows how far CZW's come.
Fantastic.
And there's a lot of good stuff in there. I believe you may actually, I know you know Alex Reynolds, I believe, has competed for IWC before.
Yes. He had an interesting because he was interesting enough and had great matches with IWC, but I didn't realize until I saw him at Pro Wrestling Syndicate WrestleMania weekend last year that he actually does kind of I want to say, is it a gay gimmick? Or at least an ambiguously gay gimmick or something, which was way more intriguing.
He's actually one half of the current CZW Tag Team Champions with John Silver, and they're taking on Juicy Product, which is JT Dunn and David Starr. Which all those guys, I believe they've competed a lot for Beyond Wrestling as well, and they're really amazing. I encourage you to check that out. Masada against Chris Dickinson. There's even a WSU match on the card. There's a lot of really cool stuff on here. So I encourage you to go check that out. That's this Sunday, April 27th at FET Music in Providence, Rhode Island. You can get more information at tickets at czwrestling.com. And I know, Sorg, there's also an event, I believe you want me to mention about PWX.
Yes. I wanted to throw out, because I sparsely just kind of keep an eye on what they're doing over there, because I know they were doing TV and everything. And there's some interesting developments when it comes to PWX. First, I think these guys are absolutely insane because they run shows like every other week, literally every other week. I mean that in the best way possible. They're doing something over there. And they're doing 2 shows this weekend. At first, I thought it was a lot crazier than it looked like. But they're actually doing their usual show because they have a building they run out of, and I was at the first show there. And I love that they were could do something where they brand the building and actually, have a little bit more control over their environment. As a Wheels, I really wish we could do something to make the gymnasium look better, right? Or any other place that I work IWC other than Court Time. Anything to make the place not look like a freaking gymnasium, right? So they have something like that. So it's always been interesting to them. They've had TV, and I've had problems with their TV. Quality wise, I've been vocal about because I want to see everybody succeed. You know that these guys start kicking ass with their TV, then maybe they'll make RWA kick ass with their Salute the Troops too. Make IWC kick ass with their Aftershock, and everybody rises up. I really believe in that. But they got 2 shows this weekend. One at their usual place up there in McKeesport, but they're also. This is interesting. We mentioned West Virginia. They're actually doing a show at the same place that IWC typically would, which sounds interesting and intriguing if you're a conspiracy theorist on certain boards. But no, that's the first time I've ever seen them not at a home base. But no, the other thing I wanted to bring up, and I took a peek at it, and I'm really happy with what they're doing. I don't know if this is what they're showing on TV or what, but they rebranded their show, I believe PWX Revolution. The stuff looks better. At least better than it did when I watched it on TV. Again, didn't watch through an entire... What's that?
That's the, their cameras all over the place thing they're doing right now. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. I mean, I've caught a few things off of Facebook and watched it went, that's a new concept.
Yeah, I mean, early on when I saw their show, I often joked with friends that it looked like it was like they found footage from the 80s and they're playing it on WBGN. Versus now, I mean, I think they've fixed whatever the heck was wrong with their lighting and everything. I mean, it was exclusively lighting, and maybe they weren't using good enough cameras to capture it. But they're at least shooting widescreen, all that kinds of stuff, and you can see it. And the reason why I'm really interested to see what they're doing, because I know there's a lot of people we're interested in. Wheels and I know that we've worked with and seen in everywhere else, around. Seth Allen, Jack Pollock guys have been in RWA. Gory, for the longest time, was doing stuff in PWX, and I didn't see him anywhere else, and a bunch of other guys. Matt Justice, who I've seen in Prime and IWC before, and I know he's a former WWE signee for a bit. So, I mean, they have a nice hour show on here. Go check it out. See if it's your your deal. Their green screen still looks very, very interesting from the looks of things, but better than before. Either way, I mean, when it comes to production for a lot of these things, there's a lot of amateurs, saying, "Hey, buddy, can you point a camera at my show?" Eamon, you're very familiar with this concept for Inspire, and then you go hire somebody who's a independent filmmaker.
Yeah.
So no,
I was going to say, I think it's kind of like you get what you pay for, and people
Exactly.
see.
Right.
Wheels,
Yeah.
I've seen early RWA footage. Wheels.
Exactly.
It's pretty rough.
And it looks so much better now, Sword. Thank
Oh,
you,
jeez, you don't need to do that. Really.
sir. Sure I do. I'll teach your
Um,
horn.
But no, they're doing some cool stuff over there. Go check that out. pwxtv.com is their main address. They have like 5 different addresses, it looks like. So,
Sorg,
yes.
if you don't mind, I'm just going to mention the one day that I'm working, because I don't know who I'm working with Sunday. I get 2 days of working this weekend in West Virginia,
Okay.
but it won't be with PWX because that's a conflict of interest right now. But I'm working with...
Stupid conflict of interest is around here.
That is true. But I'm working down in West Virginia for a company called IWWA. I've worked with them before. Great place.
Okay.
Another gymnasium type place.
Come on.
So,
I type IWWA and I get Iowa Water Well search. Do you have a website, sir?
no, they do not have a website. They do have a Facebook, and it goes to something different.
I think I found it. APWA as well?
Yes.
South
Yes,
Parkersburg, West Virginia. I have no images for you. I have nothing to show you.
I know.
I have nothing.
Right? I mean, the poster, I can tell you, is on that certain place that you and I don't like very much. But
I know. Is this the one that's going to have Hacksaw?
yes, and
cool.
Ricky Morton and Manny Fernandez, and I'll be working again with Dasher Hatfield.
God, why do you give me a reason to go with this on?
Really? No way.
And wait, Eamon, are you ready? I'll be working with the Taskmaster Kevin Sullivan. Also,
Wow.
so
Yes, he
I'm
is.
going to have a very fun, interesting
Mr.
weekend.
Touchdown, Dasher, Ricky Morton. That's crazy.
Jesus.
Eamon's like, how does this
show.
I'm
happen?
like, that's
Ryan
actually kind of
Mitchell.
intriguing to me. Just the idea of Dasher Hatfield with Hacksaw Jim Duggan's kind of weird to me.
My
but
guess-
I like it.
My guess is this show is not getting filmed for Eamon to check out.
I wish though.
I can find out, and I will let you guys know.
Hey, you can get your tickets at Pizza House and Cornell Bail Bonds. What?
Yeah, I like it. I saw that too.
But hey, this is out there. This is indie wrestling, guys, and
This- that is
sometimes
also
it's
indie
not
wrestling.
connected to the internet at all. But at least they have. At least we know they have electricity because Wheels is going down there for.
Yeah,
Sound
they'll have
duties.
electricity, and they have plumbing. If you don't hear from me after the weekend, send a search party.
Oh my! Not to West Virginia. That's a no-go zone for us, guys. Holy crap! We've been talking for a long time here.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it.
It's great. It's great. Wheels, thank you very much for joining us, talking about RWA.
a
Congratulations on the success, of course.
Thank you.
From your sound side, you were selling tickets. You were down there, hitting the trail.
I was down there every week, every day that I could.
Of course, you got great connection. That's hometown for all you guys. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. That's really cool too.
And it was a pleasure to actually have, me and you joke all the time, having the A team actually be there all together for that.
And then nobody gets me next month because I got to do something else. That'll be interesting. So I have constructed it. This is a whole other thing. But yes, I have pretty much constructed a B team and a C team. And I am the individual A team to go through a whole nother non-wrestling event. So, yeah. So that's a thing. But no, thanks a lot, Wheels. He's Hot Wheels RWA if you want to go talk at him on the Twitters, of course. And he's all over Facebook and everything over at Wrestling Mayhem Show. Facebook
Yes.
group. The other guy on the show. There he is. I'm sorry, I'm confused because I hit the button and it's still Bobby from the last show. So I'm like, and it's so late, I can't connect that. But Eamon is the guy with
me.
Inspire Pro Wrestling at Eamon2, please. Of course, I'm at Sorgatron.
SpireProWrestling.com. Come to our show.
Go check out Inspire Wrestling, of course. And check out
You'll shoot your eye out,
and
kid.
go check out the YouTubes. It's really good stuff. And I love the way Lex is doing stuff. I want to have a off conversation with him just to talk more tech.
You can get him on Awesome Guest. I'll arrange that.
We'll get him on. No. Seriously, I just want to talk video with him. I don't give a crap. It's on a podcast or something. I just want to talk to him.
This is for your ears only.
No, because nobody else is going to give a crap about what I want to talk to him about. So, but anyways. Guys, it's been fun. It's Indy Mayhem Show, WrestlingMayhemShow.com. Check us out on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, if you're even still with us at this point. Good times at WrestlingMayhemShow.com, 412-206-WMS0, all that kind of stuff. You can join us here around about 11 p.m. or join us all the way at 9 p.m. Eastern for Wrestling Mayhem Show and just make it your night for wrestling here. Thanks again, Wheels, Aaron, Eamon. And, of course, our guest, Mr. Abernathy. Go check him out at Pierre Abernathy. And I believe it's SL Anarchy. Wait, there it is. There it is right there. And we'll see you guys next week. Make sure you're supporting Indie Wrestling.
Never said I was a gangster or thug, but I'm an animal. Beat up for the taste of the blood. 6